Welcome into the Wellness Lab, the podcast that teaches you how to create your own wellness equation. I am your host, Nick Palladino-King, and today we're going to do a solo episode about stress management, anxiety, and anything that is bothering you and ways you can get out of that and get into feeling better. So let me start with this. I guess some inspiration for this podcast today is my own journey over the last maybe 3 months or so. And up until about 4 to 6 weeks ago, I'm recording this in the beginning of March. I was feeling off, and so much so that I felt like my life was kind of constricting down onto me physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, just feeling like I wasn't happy and feeling like the things around me weren't working, whether that was in my business, some close relationships, someone in my marriage, and just finding myself getting more and more upset and more frustrated. And again, feeling like the walls were closing in on me. And at the same time, I have the ability to handle that and work through that and sit with it and be with the discomfort and still be able to function in life. But internally, I was starting to see, something's up. This is not how I want to be. There's a transformation happening, a metamorphosis happening. What's going on? Why am I feeling like this? Why am I so upset and angry and just frustrated? And I don't know if you've been feeling that as well. And some of that can be that, there's a lot going on in the world. And that's been really helpful for me to take a step back on and look at and say, you know what? The world's heavy right now. There's a lot of trauma and drama going on in the United States, especially in our political scene. There's wars going on. There's financial crises going on. There's people losing their jobs, AI coming. This is a hot and heavy time to be a part of. And acknowledging that can be really helpful and say, you know what? Maybe some of what I'm feeling or some of what you're feeling may not be just yours. You may be feeling into, you could call it the collective consciousness, the collective stress or trauma or drama. And that really helped me to say, hey, you know what? Maybe some of this isn't mine. Now, a lot of it is, it's inside me. It's never outside yourself. But what I was picking up on was having a big effect. So getting some space really helped. And what I decided to do about 6 weeks ago when I said, you know what, I'm just unhappy. And something I've learned is you can't change the state you're in from the state you're in. Okay. That may sound really silly to say out loud, but think of this. If you're in a frustrated state, you're not going to get out of that frustrated state by continuing to do the same things, being in the same places, having the same conversations. Your state isn't changing. Therefore, your state of being most likely isn't going to change. So one thing I've learned is when I need to change my state of being, I need to change my state, literally where I am, what I'm doing, who I'm around. Does that mean I need to leave San Francisco where I live? Does that mean I need to be around one of my teachers who can really get in there and help work? Does that mean I need to go to psychedelics to literally change my mental state and stages of reality? So I decided to take a trip by myself for a week and leave San Francisco because I was really feeling the heaviness of the city, really feeling the heaviness of the energy around me and the stress of other people. I said, okay, let me leave for a week, right? Grab my dog. Bo's over there right now hanging out. Sorry to wake you up, buddy. And just took him on a trip. And we went up the coast, California, and we went to a couple different beaches and changed our state, right? Got out of the city, got out of the buzz, got out of work, got out of the mindset of trying to fix things and do things right and just said, fuck it. Let's take some space. And I got around nature, I got around water, right? I went to places where they were slower, people were more communicative, they were looking at me in the eye, they were smiling, they were having conversations with me, things I was yearning for and missing in San Francisco. Again, how much of that is me projecting? I'm not someone you want to talk to. I got to own that. But the space was really important. And then threw in some psychedelic work, threw in some reading, threw in some meditation, threw in some sunlight. And 4 to 6 weeks later, after coming back from that trip, I can look at that trip and say, you know what? I almost feel like a different person. Not I almost do. I feel like a different person. I feel like I'm on fire. I feel like I'm back to being myself. And this constrictive state is now an expansive state. And while I was on this trip, there's a book I found called The Big Leap. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend you go and get it. And The Big Leap really unlocked what I was feeling and what I was going through. And it's a lot of what I've been sharing lately. And I'm going to actually be interviewing the author as well very shortly. But the big leap is around the upper limiting problems that we have. And this is what the author refers to as like this glass ceiling, this invisible ceiling of our own, you could call it value system around health, wealth, peace, or happiness. And what happens is, or what can happen is, we start to hit these higher rungs or higher levels of health. I see it all the time at my fitness studio tribe. We start to hit a higher rung of wealth. You see this with people who win the lottery. You start to hit a higher level of happiness. You see some people who are in good relationships, where you hit a higher level of peace, and you see some people who their lives are going well. And something happens. They get triggered and they go, "Oh, this is too good for me." And subconsciously, we start to then knock ourselves down from these higher states or stages of consciousness of health, wealth, peace, and happiness, of the things I talk about all the time. And we go, whoa, what happened? I was doing so well with my health, right? Maybe this resonates. I was going to the gym 3 times a week. I was eating healthy. I was losing weight. I lost 20 pounds. And then I just, for some reason, just said, this is good enough. And then the weight starts to come back on. You stop going to the gym. You stop working out. You stop eating healthy. This is what the author would call an upper limiting problem. We hit these upper limits of our potential, or you could really even say these upper limits of how good we feel. And that pushes up against how good we think we should feel, or maybe more importantly, how good we think we deserve to feel. And watch these. These are everywhere in your life. Now that I know this, I'm like a hawk and I can see them in myself and see them in other people. So I was doing this. I was doing this with relationships. They were getting too good or too easy or too comfortable. I was doing this with work, making more money than I ever have, having more gyms than I've ever had, multiple locations, right? Having a flourishing podcast and clients and all these things, and going, this isn't working. I don't like this anymore. I'm unhappy here. I want to blow it all up. I want to get rid of it. I want to shut it all down. I want to leave. I want to move from San Francisco. So notice these thoughts in my mind. I'm going, well, externally, everything's really good. It's actually probably the best it's ever been in my life. But internally, I'm going, get me out of here. This is terrible. I don't want anything to do with this. So I started to think, are these thoughts mine? Are they true? Or are they fears? Are they rooted in value systems and a lack of worth, a lack of value in myself, a lack of deserving to feel good? So as the author goes into these upper limiting problems, he then goes into 4 reasons why we push up against these, right? And what freak us out. One could be that we think we're a burden to the world. So the more successful we get, then the more burdens we will give to the world, right? Another one could be is that we don't deserve to feel good, to be happy, to be healthy, to be well, to be peaceful. That's a big one. Another one, and this is one I realized I was pushing up against, and when I caught it, now I'm like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I have this inner fear that if I become too successful, I will leave the people in my life behind who really matter to me. So it's an abandonment issue of when I excel, people around me will leave. So this must be something I learned from my mom or from my dad or someone really close to me when I was young. But I wasn't able to really see it. I didn't have the language for it. And this is why it's so important when we talk about stress management or anxiety or transforming your life is you've got to first understand there's a habit. This is something my teacher Dennis says all the time. You cannot change a habit until you are aware of the habit. Once you are aware of the habit, you start to see it everywhere. You start to see it in little places in your life. You can start to see it. I can start to see it in the way I walk my dog, right? Oh, we're having a really good time. Let me get mad at him for something and wreck the day, right? And bump myself out of joy. Why? I don't deserve to feel that good, right? It might upset someone else to see me being so happy, okay? But now that I can see it, now that I'm aware of it, okay, that's the first step is awareness. Then I get to go, okay, what's going on? What am I stressed about? What am I unhappy about? What am I triggered about? What upper limit problem have I started to push up against? Okay. And start to ask yourself, what's going on? Where's the stress coming from? Why is it happening? And sit with that, right? And listen to that and feel into that. Okay. This is where you really start is these 2 pieces, awareness and then observation or self-inquiry. In yoga, it's called, um, I don't know if you'll say it. I forgot what it's called. It'll come back to me. Anyways, you start to sit inward, right? And you start to think to yourself with self-inquiry, what is happening? Why is this happening? Okay. And as you do that, you start to develop data. You start to pull in more resources, more awareness, more tools. And then once you get that, you get your data of what's going on. The next thing, and this is the key step, is then to say, okay, what are my choices here to move myself out of this state? Or what are my choices here to push through this upper limiting problem? Because that's a large part of it too. I've noticed for me, it's been scary. I'm like, I'm going to push through this upper limiting problem to higher levels of success. And then my nervous system freaks out. It's like, oh gosh, we're not worth it. We shouldn't have this much success. This is scary. Can we maintain it? Is it too much? What will other people think? Okay. Once you start to bring the awareness, you then run through your options. What are the things I can do right now? Not tomorrow, not in a week, not a year. What are the things I can do right now to make a shift? And I would say a positive shift. Okay. Something simple I've picked up the last year or two is when I have a goal, it could be to move towards something, right? Positive, or the goal could be to move away from something negative. Once I know what that is, what's the one action I can take now to move me closer to my goal and further away from the negative? Simple thing. Can I meditate? Can I sit? Can I go for a walk? Right? Can I do some psychedelics? Can I get outside? Can I call my therapist? Right? Do I have to have a deep conversation with someone that might hurt in the moment for 10 minutes, but it's not going to hurt for 10 days? It's not going to affect my energy on the same level, right? Once you know the action or actions that you can take in the moment to move you closer to your goal and further away from the things you don't want or the way you don't want to be, act, do it. This is mindfulness in action. And mindfulness alone isn't enough. This is something I say quite often. It can be a little edgy. It's because once we have mindfulness, then we're just aware. I can mindfully be an asshole all I want. That doesn't mean I'm going to change it. The change just requires willpower and desire. I have to have more willpower and desire than I do resistance or attachment to staying the same in order to make a transformation. So once I have mindfulness, then I have to bring it into action if I want to make change. You're not going to think your way into manifesting your life. You think about it, then you bring it down to the physical plane. So take action. One small step. What's one thing you can do right now that moves you closer to your goal, right? And then these actions get really granular. Dream big, have a really big vision of where you want to go, but start small. And all you can do is focus on your next breath, focus on your next step, focus on your next thought, focus on your next word, focus on your next action. All we truly have control over is what we do and the effort we put forth. Okay. We don't even have that much control over our thoughts or our emotions, but we do have control over what we say, what we do, and the effort that we put in. And those are the things we can control. And if we do that over and over again in the moment, one step, literally one step at a time, one moment at a time, one word at a time. And the more aware we are in each moment, the more we set ourselves up for success in our next moments. When I'm aware and I'm present and I'm conscious, the next step I take now is more in alignment. It's what I would call right action. What's the right action to do? And that right action will be more in alignment with my goals and it will move me closer to them. If I'm not present, I run from habits, I run from patterns, I run from fears, I run from success, and that gets in the way of getting me from where I am to where I want to be, whether that's a goal or a state. And every time you have a fear or a worry or shame or blame or guilt or trauma or drama, those are like roadblocks that get in the way. You're here, you want to be here. And instead of going from point A to point B, it's like, oh, I go this way, up, there's a roadblock, I go down, up, there's a roadblock, I go here, up, there's a detour, I go here, up, I'm going to go back home, now I'm going to change my goal. And it takes us a year to get to our goal, which would have taken us a day, a week, a month. So that's what we're going to start to do is start to close the gap between where you are and where you want to be or how you feel and how you want to feel. Bring awareness, ask yourself what's going on, dive in, understand yourself, do self-inquiry. Okay. It's called Svadhyaya. There we go. There's the word. And then move on to what's the action you can take. Take that action. Okay. Trust that action. Be confident in that action. Own that action. Be willing to be judged for your action because it's in line with what you need. And you got to own that. That's on you. And then finally, go through and thank your system. Thank your system for helping you recognize you're stressed, helping you recognize you're unhappy, helping you recognize you're pushing up into an upper limit, and you're unconsciously self-sabotaging your life, your health, your wealth, your peace, and your happiness. And thank yourself. Thank your stress. Thank your anxiety. Thank the contraction I was feeling, the frustration I was feeling. Say, thank you for waking me up. The only reason the stress is there, the only reason the contraction is there is because we're not happy internally. If we were, then we wouldn't have it. A friend the other day goes, Nick, he goes, when I do psychedelics, they make me anxious. That's not what's happening. He goes, what do you mean? I go, the anxiety is already there. It's living there. You can't hear it. Once you take the psychedelic, it pushes the anxiety forward and now you see it. Now you're aware of it. So it's helping him bring awareness to the things he's ignoring or burying down. And I was like, oh, the psychedelic isn't causing the anxiety, it's bringing it forward. This is why people get scared of psychedelics or meditation or inner self work because the fears are there, right? The demons are in there. But if you can go in to the closet with a flashlight like the light behind me and shine a light on it and go, oh, well, hey, fear, how you doing? And you go in there and you shake hands with your fear and you get to know it and you thank it for being there for you and you love it for loving you where no one else will. And you say, hey, what's up? Why are you here? Why are you protecting me? Who told you that you needed to protect me from myself? Who told you you needed to protect me from my own success, my own health, my own happiness? Well, you did. Well, mom did. Well, dad did. Okay. Well, great. Well, guess what? This is no longer serving us. I appreciate you loving me where no one else would. I appreciate you protecting me. But now it's time for us to grow up and I'm going to let you go so I can go into higher levels of success. And what I'm personally finding is these higher levels of success can feel scary, right? They can feel manic. I'm talking for myself. It's like, whoa, I'm stepping into a higher realm of health, a higher realm of wealth, a higher realm of happiness and peace. Whew, I can feel it in my chest. Do I deserve this? I notice what comes in. Can I maintain this? That seems to be a narrative. Who fucking cares? Can I maintain it in this moment? Yes. Can I maintain it in the next moment? I don't know, but we'll find out when we get there. But what I do know is if I can maintain it in this moment and be present and take right actions, then in the next moment, it sets me up for me to maintain it then. And then it starts to build. And then we start to build momentum. And momentum likes momentum. And then we get some proof. Okay, I can hang at these higher rungs. I can hang at these higher stages. And everything's going to be okay. And no one's going to leave me. And no one's going to get mad at me. And my life's going to get better. And as a result, the life of people around me will get better. The businesses around me will get better. My community will get better, right? And then the world will get better. And by better, let's use a better word. We'll elevate, we'll expand, we'll be more open, we'll be more conscious, okay? This is how you start within. This is directly from the Dalai Lama. He says we start inside, then we work on our community, then we work on the world. And what a lot of people are doing, from what I've noticed, is trying to work on the world. And we can't do that. We can't affect the political climate, unless you are in politics, right? And you're a governor or something like that. But besides that, we got to start inward. It's never outside of ourselves. So create health, wealth, peace, and happiness internally. And then by the way you live in the world, go inspire others around you to do the same. Compliment them. Tell them they're doing a great job. Push them to grow. Inspire them to change. Show them it's okay to shine bright. Show them it's okay to be successful. Show them it's okay to push through higher upper limits. And they're going to look at you and go, wow, well, if he can do it, then maybe I can do it. Okay? I'm just a normal person. I've just decided that I'm here to inspire transformation. That's it. Just clear. Okay? Can you be that clear? Can you start to understand what your purpose is, why you're here, and then go live it in yourself, right? There's another great thing one of my teachers says. He says, we don't teach people how to live, right? What we do is we teach people through how we're living, okay? And then they can watch us and go, oh, I didn't know you could stay calm and confident in the face of challenge, or I didn't know you could be happy when everyone else is sad, or I didn't know you could be positive when the world's negative. And someone's going to watch that and go, whoa, I want some of that. And then you can start to share. Here's how you do it. Here's a book. Read The Big Leap. Read, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Read The Four Agreements. There's plenty of things out there that they can start to read and you can start to read to elevate. So I hope this is helpful. But to recap, understand when you're stressed, bring awareness to it. Okay. Start to inquire internally, what's going on? Why is this happening? What am I afraid of? What am I pushing up against? Right? Am I freaking out? What's the reason? Once you have awareness and you've got a sense of what's going on, then move to what's the action that can move you closer to the goal and further away from the negative or the state that you don't want to be in. Take that action, take small actions that you can repeat over and over again, build momentum, and then thank your system for bringing you the awareness that you're unhappy, you're unhealthy, you're unwell, you're self-sabotaging, and then your system will go, okay, great. When I let him know or I let her know that things are wrong, they'll listen. And then it'll build trust with you to show you deeper parts of yourself that I was afraid to. So I hope this is helpful, but really at the end of the day, start to internally transform yourself through your own way of being, through pushing through your upper limits, through loving yourself, through realizing that you are so capable, you have so much potential, you probably don't even know. It's way more than you think. I promise you that. And then go start to live that in the world, go affect the people around you in a positive way, affect your community in a positive way, and that will affect the world in a positive way. And then it's like invisible ripples, and you'll never know the effect that your presence will have on the world just by simply being yourself. I hope this is helpful. If you need help, throw me a comment in the comments section, or feel free to email me if you're interested in any of the coaching programs. I've got an online coaching program now, M3 Health Academy. There's a virtual option, there is a group option, and there's a private option. So if you want some help, you want to dive into this yourself, give me a call. Let's have a conversation. Book one through my email in the notes, and I will see you soon. All right. If this was helpful for you, please share this with someone else who you think it would help elevate their own health, wealth, peace, and happiness. And as always, take care of yourself. Much love.